Mainline Pokemon games, for the most part, are pretty formulaic as far as story goes. When there is one, the story generally involves the protagonist making their way through 8, or that one awesome time 16, gym leaders, before taking on the Elite 4, of whom there are usually 5, and becoming the champion. We've become so used to this that it's rarely questioned these days. When you stop to think about it though, it is a little strange. I mean, you can't just walk into your local gym and challenge the leader to a fight. So what's the deal with gym challenges in Pokemon? Short answer, it's probably just a way of encouraging the player to progress through the game. Long answer, the idea actually has a pretty cool basis in old Japanese martial arts traditions. To start us off, what is a Pokemon gym meant to represent? Now, if you've ever been to a gym, you'll know that it's largely a place where sweaty dudes grunt and lift things, and strike manly poses. Joking aside though, gyms are generally a place where people go to exercise and develop their physical capabilities. They're not really the sort of place where anyone expects to be challenged to a fight, or to do any fighting really. Pokemon gyms seem to be more along the line of martial arts dojos. Generally, these are places where people go to learn and develop fighting techniques. This matches Pokemon gyms much closer, these being places where trainers go to practice and develop their Pokemon's capabilities in battle, as well as their own skill as trainers. Martial arts dojos also tend to operate under the guidance of instructors, who act a bit like gym leaders in Pokemon. Also, most real-life martial arts dojos tend to focus on certain specific styles and techniques, which does seem to match a Pokemon gym's tendency to focus on using Pokemon of a certain type. So, it's probably best to think of Pokemon gyms as something more like a martial arts dojo, or at least a boxing or an MMA gym instead of a fitness gym. And while challenging a gym is a pretty dumb idea, challenging a dojo is, well, it's also a pretty dumb idea, but at least it's an idea with precedence. So what are dojo challenges then? Well, in old school Japan, there used to be a practice known as Dojo Yaburi, which translates to something like dojo breaking. How this would normally work would be a person would go into a dojo and challenge everybody there to a fight. The lowest ranking members of the dojo would have to be defeated first, and then progressively higher ranking members, and assuming they were successful, the challenger would then get to take on the head instructor. If they beat the head instructor, the challenger would be considered to have completed a successful Dojo Yaburi. As proof of how awesome they were, the victor would usually take something along with them as a souvenir, like the dojo sign. On the surface, this does sound a lot like what happens in the Pokemon games, where a trainer would walk into a gym and challenge everyone there to a battle. Generally, they would have to defeat several other trainers before being able to take on the gym leader, as well as doing a whole bunch of silly puzzles, but we'll gloss over that. If they defeated the gym leader, the trainer would then get to take the gym's badge as a sign of their victory. So, are gym challenges in Pokemon a form of Dojo Yaburi? Not quite. There are a few things about this which need a bit more attention. Dojo Yaburi were very serious affairs. People could, and often did, die in these challenges, especially when swords were involved. Furthermore, the point of a Dojo Yaburi was generally to destroy, discredit or dishonor the dojo being challenged, hence dojo breaking. If a dojo was the victim of a successful challenge and lost its sign, it could no longer continue as a dojo and would be forced to disband. This doesn't seem to happen in the Pokemon games. Gyms seem to take on a lot of challenges, some of whom defeat the leaders. The most obvious example would be in Gen 1, where your rival challenges and defeats the gyms before you do. By the time you get there, the gyms are still open and they're still taking more challenges. Probably because they were so serious, Dojo Yaburi were rare, although I suppose they were common enough that there's an agreed name for them. But this doesn't reflect what happens in the Pokemon universe, where you get the impression that gyms are challenged frequently and on a fairly regular basis. Given this, it seems unlikely that standard gym challenges in Pokemon are a form of Dojo Yaburi. It's worth noting though that a full-blown Dojo Yaburi does happen in Pokemon. Again, in Gen 1, Sabrina, the leader of the Psychic Gym in Saffron City, does a Dojo Yaburi on the Fighting Gym and defeats all the trainers there. By the time the player gets there, the Fighting Gym is no longer recognized as an official Pokemon gym and has no badge to award the player. Further, should the player defeat the trainers, they begged not to take the dojo's emblem as a trophy, but are given a Pokemon instead. So, much like in the real world, Dojo Yaburi does seem like something that happens in Pokemon, but it's rather rare, and it's fairly serious when it does happen. So how should standard gym challenges in Pokemon be understood? There is another practice known as Taryū Shiai, which translates to something like a match or deal with the practitioner of another style. It was very popular during Edo period Japan, especially amongst kenjutsu or sword fighting dojos, probably because the country was largely at peace during this period and all the bored swordsmen needed something to do. On the surface, Taryū Shiai was very similar to Dojo Yaburi but was, for lack of a better word, more polite. Like Dojo Yaburi, this involved challenging the members of a dojo from the lowest ranked ones to the highest ranked ones. However, it was done much more respectfully, and because fights were conducted with practice weapons, such as wooden or bamboo swords, people very rarely died. Should a challenger lose, it was expected for them to become a student at the dojo, at least temporarily. Unlike Dojo Yaburi, these were very common. They were common to the point that they could become very annoying by interrupting the regular training of the dojo. Because of this, some of the larger and more famous dojos, especially in Edo or modern day Tokyo, would turn down lesser known challenges until they had challenged other dojos and built up their reputation. So, during this period, it was very common for swordsmen to go on warrior pilgrimages, travelling around the country and challenging various dojos, both to develop their techniques and to develop their reputations as swordsmen. This seems to match the process of gym challenges in Pokemon much more closely. Mainly, all the similar aspects of Dojo Yaburi are still there, but with a few interesting additions. Most notably, Taryū Shiai was so common that it was almost an institution in Edo period Japan. People expected it to happen, which seems to be the case in the Pokemon games as well, since they seem to keep a large stack of badges around to give away as trophies. Losing to a gym in Pokemon also usually means that you can't carry on with the game until you beat it. This does, in an oblique sort of way, reflect the idea of temporarily becoming a student. You would have to learn and train to beat the gym before you can leave. Lastly, some gyms in Pokemon don't let you challenge them until you have enough badges, the best example which being the Petalburg gym from Gen 3. This is a bit like a famous dojo refusing to accept a challenger until a swordsman has a better fighting reputation, in this case proven by having badges from other successful challengers. Extend this and the idea of the Elite Four almost becomes something like an elite dojo, which the player can only take on after they've built up enough of a reputation from taking on lesser dojos. Looking at it like this, gym challenges become a rather interesting part of the Pokemon universe. It makes Pokemon gyms a place where people actually go to train to be better, with their own stories, goals, and even character, rather than just being a mechanical obstacle on the player's journey. Now, if you've had the chance to play through the Isle of Armor DLC for Sword and Shield, a lot of this might be sounding pretty familiar. A young trainer goes to a dojo, undergoes a series of trials, defeats various long-standing members, and eventually gets the chance to take on the master. And while you don't quite get to take it over, you do pick up a bunch of nice perks and whatnot. Sounds a bit like a Taryū Shiai situation, no? Obviously, it isn't quite the same thing, but regardless, it's nice to see a different take loosely based on the same broad inspiration, which perhaps goes to show that it's always worth revisiting old ideas and seeing what new spin you can put on it. So there you have it. Gym challenges in Pokemon may have their basis in Taryū Shiai, a practice where medieval Japanese swordsmen went around challenging each other to develop their techniques. And in all likelihood, Seahor's the very best, like no one ever was.